Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Alpa Doshi for revision and guidance sessions on organization of commerce and management. As we await our HSC exams, today we're going to be talking about the questions on justify the following. As we know, our new paper pattern has this question. So let's go about discussing how do we write the answers for justify. Under the topic of justify the following, the very first chapter, we begin with the very first chapter, that is principles of management. Under principles of management, you will see that basically whatever the topics are cancelled, right? For example, you have significance of management principles is cancelled. So any true or false related to that is not at all going to come for your examination. The most important principle of management justify question possible is principles of management are flexible in nature. The same question also appeared in the September 2021 paper. Let us see where can we find the answer for this particular question in your textbook. So if you will see the topic of nature of principles of management, there are some general guidelines as to how it is universal, how there is practice and experiments, and then you see a paragraph here about flexibility. Remember, when you are writing an answer for a justify, you don't directly start with the paragraph on flexibility. First, you're going to start with the meaning of what are principles of management. So in the very beginning, where you have different paragraphs, passages on what are the meaning. For example, page number 1, you see the last 2 lines, or you have other paragraphs on page number 2, first paragraph, saying principles of management are techniques or systems which give one directional results, and they're called as principles. So principles are universal, they're applicable everywhere. Now, when we are talking about this, we are just giving a basic meaning of the concept of what are principles of management. Thereafter, you will kind of give some kind of a description, how they are guidelines, how they help in decision making, how there is a cause-effect relationship, and this is possible due to observation, due to analysis, and finally they conduct experiments and come down to conclusion. So this you are explaining is the meaning of nature of principles of management. Once you've understood the format, how to answer, you will be able to answer any of these. For example, we started with the meaning of what are principles of management, and which would include even this paragraph under nature of principles of management, how they guide, influence behavior of employees, anything, some 4 or 5 lines to explain. Thereafter, you say, though principles of management are fundamental and, guidelines, they are not rigid and they are flexible. In other words, they can be changed, they can be modified from time to time, and they can be made, altered as per the situations. So principles of management are flexible guidelines, and there is a lot of scope, there are a lot of chance of how you can adjust them according to the nature of the enterprise, according to the volume of business, what is the size of your organization, or especially under competition, the principles of management can be different. For example, the best way you could mention is how in the past 2 years of COVID, a lot of principles of management had to be altered to suit the particular situation. So this is what we say, that just like modern business is very, very dynamic, and so also other principles of management are very, very dynamic, and they can be flexible, they can be changed, modified as per the situation. So you identify the problem and accordingly give apply a particular principle of management. So this is how you started your answer. You came down to the passage. If you will see the passage here you have on flexibility, you read the paragraph. They are flexible in nature. It means they can be changed, modified according to the situation. Managers can be flexible while implementing principles to suit the requirement. Okay, business situations keep on changing. If you see here, giving a few examples would also make it even more, impressive. Like we explained the example of how things have been different in the COVID year. The last sentence you have there, management principles can be adjusted, modified, and can be used in the organization according to the need. So another important point I want to make here is basically, dear students, in this particular year, you have the Maharashtra State Board Digest Solution app. So I hope everybody has downloaded the app. I have been telling you about it. In that app, dear students, you will find a good answer for this particular topic on how management principles are flexible. All right. In the old syllabus, there was a true or false question. Management principles are rigid. So it is a false statement and you have to give reason. So all the books where you have this answer is relevant here. So this is exactly what you have in your answer for the first true or false or rather the first justify question. Moving ahead, we see that the second possible justify question which you get in this topic is about principles of management improve efficiency. Please remember, since the topic of importance of principles of management or significance of principles of management is omitted, you cannot get the true or false on principles of management are significant or important or, they improve efficiency. So apart from this, there are not many true or false that we expect here. Let us see randomly, let us take some examples of how, say, different examples of principles could be asked for justify. Say, for example, principle of division of work has been, propounded by Henry Fayol. So obviously, it's a true statement to give justification. So you start your answer with how Henry Fayol conducted experiments and how he has laid down these principles of management through experiment, observation, and drawing down to an analysis and conclusion. So once you have done the meaning of who is Henry Fayol and how he has put up the theory, then you come down to this paragraph on what are the principles, what is the principle of division of work. You explain that work is divided into different kinds. It could be technical field, it could be financial, commercial, security, accounting, managerial work. And thereafter, employees are assigned the work as per their qualities, capabilities, experience, interest, etc. So this helps in improving efficiency and expertise of the employees. So this same answer, dear students, you'll have prepared for 14 principles of management, and the same part, you have to remember this, that you cannot start directly with this paragraph. You start with the meaning, give a background, give an introduction, and then come to this main body, main part of the answer of principle of division of work. So this is how you must try and practice in case you get justified questions on, let us say, principle of equity. Principle of equity is necessary. So you will start with the explanation of what are these principles, who has given these principles, how were the experiments and analysis done, and then you come down to the paragraph on principle of equity. So this is how you will have your entire answer here. If you see here, principle of equity is explained as management should be fair as well as friendly to the customers, to the subordinates, while dividing the work, while delegating the work, while deciding the monetary terms. All the time balance has to be maintained. Everybody should be treated equally. There should be no discrimination between the employees. So this is how you will use that particular paragraph to explain in detail. At this point of time, I want to make a very important point here. Please remember, in your 80 marks paper, you have 4 justified questions given, out of which you have to attempt any 2, just any 2. 50% choices there, so don't worry. Even if you have not prepared some really, ones which are in the depth, plus those true or false where you really cannot put some substantial matter in your answer. If you feel your answer is going to be too small, please leave that for option. Attempt the one where you have prepared something which is a good one foolscap page of an answer at least. So make sure that this is how you're going to prepare, and that's going to make you, really comfortable, and you will be really scoring well. One important point, write in point form. Start with the meaning. You can write down the title as meaning. You can give some introduction, then you come to the main point, and then you also can give something like a conclusion. That really will be a wonderful spot on answer. Just do not write only in paragraph form is a sincere request. So I think that should be enough in this topic on principles of management. We can now move ahead with the next chapter, and that is the chapter of functions of management. We now move ahead with the entire part on justify questions for the chapter of functions of management. Considering 20 marks, we expect maybe one justify on this. If you see here, the question possible, one of the most important justifies which have been asked is planning is the first function of management. That's one of the popular questions which has come. It is also asked as planning is a fundamental function, planning is the basic function. So in any case, whatever the statement, if you will see here, that when you are talking about this topic of planning as being the fundamental function, you start with the answer. Like I told you earlier, you start the answer with the meaning and concept of planning. You see the very first part, so your answer will start, you write down answer and you start as meaning. Planning is the basic function of management. Every function of management is based on planning. This first very important sentence has to be there on your answer, and that is what they're saying. It is a basic function. It includes deciding the things to be done in advance. If you will read this paragraph from the point of view of justify, you will find, yes, this is what is explaining or justifying the statement. So planning is an intellectual process of logical thinking, rational thinking. If you know, when you're doing your distinguish between, suppose you have left this part for choice, you may safely even leave the justify answer for choice. As we saw, if you have not actually done the entire chapter, you can definitely leave even the justify question on this chapter for choice. However, if you do not really find any other option to attempt, you have already done the distinguish between, which will help you answer the basics of this answer as well. So out of 4 marks, it's going to be easy to get at least 2 or 2.5 in case you've not really prepared much in detail as well. So basically, you've started with this paragraph on meaning. You said that planning is the basic thing on which all the other functions are decided, and that becomes your main part of the answer. Then again, you continue explaining how it is an intellectual process. If you will see, the Maharashtra State Board app is also picked up these as well as one of these definitions while writing the answer. So basically, when you have this type of an answer, you say planning helps in, setting objectives. So that is the first step in any commercial activity. And so based on these objectives, organizing, staffing, directing, all the other functions will be carried out. And so therefore we say that planning is the fundamental which gives the outline about where to go, how to go, who will do it, when will it be done. So all of these meaning are guiding us, are directing us to the reason why planning is called as a fundamental function. All right. So that's what makes your answer on why planning is a fundamental function. Similarly, say for example, in case of organizing, there was a question about how division of work is important in organizing. If you have such a question and you've not really prepared for that topic, try to leave that for option. It is absolutely safe to leave that for option because you have studied the other chapters in detail. So usually from these chapters, we've had this question about the function of division of work is required in case of organizing. There is something like planning is important in the process of the management function. Otherwise, there have not been many justify questions from this. So that's all in this topic. We can now move ahead to the justify questions of the third chapter. Once again, if you see under the chapter of entrepreneurship development, you see that there are totally only 5 marks, out of which 1 mark is going to be objective, and you have a 4 mark, either a short note. The chances of getting a justify question here are quite poor. If you see, mainly in this chapter, you have to do characteristics and functions only. All of Startup India, Stand Up India, Agro-tourism is for objectives. You can safely leave entrepreneurship development for choice. So altogether, you have characteristics, functions, and you have recent initiatives as objectives. Also entrepreneur. We've done all of this in your videos on objectives of this chapter. Talking about the possible justify question in this, maybe say for example, wherever you have the characteristics of an entrepreneur, you can get a justify question like an entrepreneur must have intellectual capabilities. So you start your answer with the word, meaning of the word entrepreneur. You go on to the meaning, give one definition, and then you start with the characteristics of an entrepreneur. You say that because he requires future vision, he must have intellectual capabilities, because he must be able to analyze things, because he must have technological knowledge, and so he must be intelligent. He must have good communication skills, and therefore intelligent capabilities become a must. So in other words, from within this, you will be able to write the answer for a justify question as well. As we have already said, qualities is deleted from your syllabus. Again, under the topic of functions of entrepreneur, which is the second possible short note, you can get justify question was an entrepreneur has to be innovative. Okay, so once again, we'll not start with this paragraph. We will first go to the meaning of who's an entrepreneur, and gradually then you come down this aspect where entrepreneur is basically somebody who innovates, who tries out new ways and means, comes up with new combination, brings up new products, modifies, alters, changes the existing products to customer satisfaction. So all of this paragraph will be relevant if you get such a true or false with reason or justify question on functions of an entrepreneur. The sentence could be an entrepreneur has to be innovative. So you must try and figure out that, okay, they are talking about functions of entrepreneur and first point. Once again, I'll repeat, if you do not have a very good detailed answer on all of these topics, don't attempt it. You have a very good choice there, and that will really make you comfortable in answering your questions. So that's it from the third chapter. We move on to the fourth chapter now. Under the topic of business services, remember, main true or false with reasons are important ones. There are many possible. You have done long answer questions on types of banks, functions of bank. You have done a long answer on principles of insurance. Now, what possible justify questions can we expect? Something which has come in the board quite often. One of the favorites, overdraft facility is available on current account. Okay, so that goes in the functions of commercial banks category. So that's one important question. Then again, you have a few on insurance. Okay, not many on banks perhaps. What you have next, justify possibility, is principle of utmost good faith is applicable to all insurance. The next possible is the most important one in the whole textbook is principle of indemnity is not applicable to life insurance. So these three sample, justifies from this chapter should be enough for your revision. Let's start with the revision of the topic on banking. The one statement that we have, overdraft facility is given to current account holders. So when we talk about this, we are talking about functions of bank. Under the topic of functions of banks, you have the different types of banks. So here, if you see here, first of all, you have a current account. See what it says, it's operated by business firms. So you start your answer with giving overdraft facility is a primary function of bank which comes under the lending function, banks perform the primary function of giving loans and advances on a short-term and a long-term basis. Overdraft is a facility available to current account holders, and it is a short-term loan given by banks to their customers. So this is how you have started with the introduction. You don't directly jump to current account. You don't directly jump to overdraft. You first start with, where does this topic? It's a function of a commercial bank. Which function? It is one of the primary function under that lending function. So you start gradually with this, then move on to the part on the paragraph that you have in front of you. I will tell you another paragraph also, like if you will see here, again, there are a few lines on overdraft. Both put together, dear students, this should be more than enough. One important point, I think most of the textbooks and guides and everybody is missing out. Suppose you want to explain overdraft. Overdraft facility is given to current account holders. It becomes important and relevant to say that cash credit is provided to both current and savings account holders. Loans are given to people who may not even have any account in the bank. Okay. However, overdraft facility is given only to those who hold a current account in the bank for a certain period of time. So this is how you are trying to compare. I think a lot of justification can be done by comparing your concept to a connected concept. So we're talking about overdraft, we're comparing it with cash credit, we're comparing it with long-term and medium-term loans. So this is how you form your answer. Please do not directly jump to that paragraph. Don't write the answer only in one paragraph form. Try and put it in points. So that's your answer on how overdraft facility is given to current account holders. Now the next important one, like I said, there are many possible objectives. The video can go on for hours and hours. However, we are talking about the most important ones. In the board, out of 4, you have to attempt any 2. So doing these many should be more than enough. Next, principle of utmost good faith is applicable to all types of insurance. A justified statement will be given. Principle of utmost good faith is applicable to all types of insurance. So when we are talking about all types of insurance, we are talking about life, fire, marine, etc. Okay, since our syllabus covers only this much. You start your answer with the meaning of insurance. You then talk about the principles of insurance. Like you will see here that the principle of insurance is basically, once you start explaining the term insurance, you will start explaining what is the meaning of the word consideration, how a premium is given by the insurer or rather the insured to the insurer, and that's how the entire answer begins. So once you've done that, then only after that will you explain this paragraph on what is principles of utmost good faith and why it is applicable to all the contracts. Obviously, true material facts, clear, complete information, whether it's a life insurance. You have to mention if there is any medical history with the person being insured. If you're doing a fire insurance, you have to mention if there are any other major risk factors around your property, around your goods. If you're doing marine insurance, if there is a particular type of a chemical or some inflammable substance, you have to disclose that. If you hide any of this material fact, your contract will become null and void. So we say, therefore, principle of utmost good faith is applicable to all types of insurance. Now see what difference we made in the answer. We gave an example of how principle of utmost good faith is applicable to life, applicable to fire, and applicable to marine. I think that makes a wonderful answer. Any examiner is going to be really, really impressed if you really compare it with different concepts. Going to the next possible, I think one of the most favorite justify questions could be, principle of indemnity does not apply to life insurance. Okay, so the true statement that we have in the question paper possibly could be, principle of indemnity does not apply to life insurance. Now, once we have that, you see the paragraph here, As I said, we are not going to directly start and jump to principles of indemnity. We're going to first talk about insurance, meaning under that we say insurance is ruled by certain principles. If these principles are not followed, contract becomes null and void. The important principle of insurance is principle of indemnity, which means guarantee or assurance to put the insured in the same financial position as he was prior to the happening of an uncertain event. So this is the meaning. You've learned this definitely. Now you go on to explain that this is applicable to fire and general insurance. However, it is not applicable to life, since we cannot value human life. Since life cannot be measured in monetary terms. After death of the insured, one cannot, say that this is the value of the human being and only so much compensation should be given. It is out of question. And so indemnity does not apply to life insurance. Then you continue and you also talk about, if you see here, they have compared, if you want your answer to be really clear, you have to say that why it is not applicable to life, which is in the question, but you have to explain how it is applicable to fire and other marine and general insurances. Okay, so this will be your answer for principle of indemnity. I think that should be enough. These are the three most important ones we can have under the topic of business services. We move on to the next chapter now. In fact, there could be one possible question even on warehousing. All right, so say for example, you have the topic of functions of warehousing. Okay, so if you have a question like this, warehousing is a very important business service. Warehousing is an important business service. You will explain the points like there is a time gap between production and distribution. Goods have to be stored and preserved, and therefore warehousing is important. Also, warehousing provides the benefit of price stabilization. It does not allow the prices to rise sharply or even fall steeply. So that's how you explain the answer on how warehousing is important. Also, warehousing helps in performing functions like grading, packing, transportation. Warehousing provides financing facilities by giving the warehouse receipt as mortgage to financial institutions. And thus, since warehousing creates time utility to products, it gives place utility to products, warehousing is said to be an important business service. So you see how we've taken head points, we've taken important sentences. You've learned these answers anyways. Now you have to write it in the format of a justify answer. So just a simple bit of practice, I'm sure should be enough. Once you've heard this video, you can just browse through your textbooks, read the passages again, and you should just devote some 3 hours just to prepare for the important justify questions. Moving to the 5th chapter, emerging modes of business. Once again, we have around 2 or 3 important objectives here. For example, e-business is easier than traditional mode of business, is a favorite possible option that you can get. Again, there is something about benefits of e-business. E-business, online business is easier to start. All of these are going to be very relevant. So suppose you get a question on e-business. Let us say, for example, if you read this paragraph, here also they have given a lot of matter. Under the topic of scope of e-business, they've given a lot of points to explain how e-business is better than traditional modes of business. So if you see that e-business gives you several options, not only online shopping, stock taking, using the software for online booking. Now businesses are managed through, they're becoming more and more aware, and that's how e-business has become more relevant. Okay, so production, finance, marketing, personnel administration, everything has now come under e-business, and therefore you see the relevance here. Now, if you want to write your answer of how e-business is better than traditional business, there's an entire paragraph here on page number 100. If you will see this entire paragraph, they have given kind of a comparison there. Information plays an important role. It is exchanged both in traditional and in online business. But compared to traditional business, internet transactions are easy. So they're giving a comparison. Traditional business, more time is required, a lot of negotiation, convincing. Both the parties have to meet face to face. So they have given 4 points on problems of traditional business. So now they are talking about what is the benefit of online transaction. Okay, we see here. First, required information is provided with terms and conditions. It is free. Most of the problems do not occur of traditional business. You do not need to meet face to face. There's no negotiation. So this is how online transactions are easier and result oriented than the traditional method of business. So they have given this diagrammatic representation of how traditional transactions are a little more difficult, more complex. Under the same chapter of emerging modes of business, one more possible justify could be outsourcing is important so that business can focus on core activities. So that is nothing but the short note on outsourcing. So once you've explained the meaning, the concept, the advantages, in fact, even some of the part on need, you will make a wonderful answer. Please write it in point form. Don't put it in the form of paragraphs. So whatever you are writing, say for example, meaning, or you're giving example, or you're giving need of outsourcing, whatever part you're mentioning, give it a title and then explain. Your justify answer should turn out, very clear. So this is what you have in your chapter number 5. If we go to chapter number 6 on social responsibilities, there is one common social responsibility question which we have received in the past. We have been getting it in the board papers, and that is the question on say, for example, social responsibilities of a business organization is multifaceted, or business organization have responsibility towards different interest groups. So then you will explain that how they have interest, they are responsible towards owners, investors, employees, consumers, government, community, and you may give one example of each one of this. So this is how you will be writing down your answer for social responsibility towards different interest groups. Now you have done an entire answer on each one of them. Even if you have maybe not done it in detail, I'm sure you start with the meaning of social responsibility, you explain the concept, you have done all of that part. All our videos on objective questions have covered all these introductions which you need, maybe for a short answer, maybe for a justify, as well as for long answer. So all that we marked in that objective, the most important sentences. Please watch that video and you will be sure about how to start with your justify answer. Once you've given the meaning, then you come down that how they are responsible to the different sections of the society. As for example, here you have this paragraph on businesses cannot live in isolation. They depend upon the society for input as well as for output. Okay, so that's how they are conducted with the help of various interest groups, and hence they should be properly balanced and protected. So with this, you will then start with how one line on owners, one line on customers. Everywhere you will be able to give one line, and that will make a good answer. Without wasting much more time, the video is getting quite long. Let's try and go to the second last chapter under this, and that's the topic of consumer protection. One very favorite true or false with the reason under consumer protection is the question that you always get, and that's about Consumer Protection Act has been passed in the interest of consumers. So if you will see that there is a wonderful passage given, if you will start here, that the very first paragraph on, let us say, for example, you have the concept of meaning, all right? So how consumers are regarded as king. However, in sellers market, they have been cheated and exploited through price rise, through artificial scarcity, black marketing, adulteration, and misleading advertising. And therefore, it is necessary that consumers should have adequate knowledge of product, services regarding the quality, quantity, and therefore they can select the right product. To avoid this exploitation, it is the whole concept about the topic is to avoid this exploitation, they have formed Consumer Protection Act, and under which the several rights of consumers have been protected. So if you will see, this type of an answer should be explained with all the rights that you have. Now remember, need for consumer protection is deleted in this year's syllabus, so you do not take any part from that. You trust that you make sure that whatever the question is, they're not talking about the deleted part. It has to be this part, the other parts. So under this, once again, when you have say, for example, Consumer Protection Act has been passed in the interest of consumers, you will start your answer with the very first paragraph in the chapter of consumer protection that we just read out. After that, you say how Consumer Protection Act has been passed for consumers. As we are discussing this important justifier of Consumer Protection Act was passed in the interest of consumers, immediately make sure that you give examples of all the rights of consumers. So you say that it was introduced to avoid exploitation of the consumers. It was not in the interest of sellers. Consumers play an important role in their protection and safety. Consumers' rights play an important role. And therefore, the following rights have been defined to make sure that consumer is protected. For example, right to safety, right to information, right to choose, right to be heard. You can give an entire list if you like. So this will make a good answer to explain how consumer protection has been done in the interest of the consumers. All right. So you started with the meaning of what is consumer protection. You started with explaining the very first paragraph on the page, first page of the chapter of how consumers are exploited and why you need consumer protection. Then again, you said that Consumer Protection Act 2019 mentions the following rights of the consumers, and you give this right of consumers list. So this is how you conclude that rights have been protected under this and efforts are being made to protect any kind of exploitation. This completes your chapter number 7. Now, under chapter number 8, dear students, under marketing, we expect a few short or justify questions like, marketing is important to society. Marketing is important for consumers. So if you see, we have 3 categories of importance of marketing. Under importance of marketing, you have importance of marketing to society. Suppose you get a question on this, marketing is important for society. This is a direct answer, so nothing to be discussed here. Similarly, you can get an answer on marketing is important to the firm. Then here on page number 156 is your answer. And like it came in the September exam, marketing is important for consumers, page number 157 and 158. So this is how, dear students, you will be required to prepare for your answers. Out of these, you must write 4 or 5 points in brief. Altogether, 1 full step page information should be enough. So for example, if you are starting with the answer of marketing is important for consumers, you will first talk about marketing, give 1 definition, and then write these head points and explain maybe in your own words. If you want to really score 80, 75 plus out of 80, it's important to use these commercial terms. That's what makes organization of commerce different than other subjects. So that's all in our Justify video. Thank you very much. Sorry for making it a bit long, but wanted to cover all possible most important ones. Like I said, these are the most important ones. and 99% the 4 that you have in your paper will definitely have 2 out of this for sure or more. So that's all in this video. Please post your comment, share, subscribe, and let me know of any other doubts and difficulties which I can help you with. Thank you very much for now. Thank you.